Okay, I think we are live. Just that you all guys know, we started a little bit earlier, and I also have to change the thumbnail a little bit because some guests left the discussion and some joined. So for example, the P2P validator team, I think the whole team is here except Vasily. And of course, we have the pleasure to have Zaki on board. And as planned, Yelena is also here. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Yuri, for putting this together. Just full disclosure, it's the morning for me, 8 a.m. So if I'm not the most articulate, that's why. That's my excuse.
Nice. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot to discuss. And also, guys, in the chat, please let us know if the sound is working, for example. So if we have any problems, please let us know. But without hesitating anymore, I think more and more people are joining now. So we will talk about governance proposal 72 now, which is a very hot topic in the interchain as of now. So I would like to ask you, Zaki, if you could give us some context here. Also maybe some context based on the past about the previous governance proposal 69.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple of layers to this whole current set of governance proposals, and there's a few misconceptions here. One component of this is, so Occlusion has been working for many months, probably almost close to a year, I think, on bringing liquid staking to Atom. And what we mean is by bringing liquid staking to Atom is making it easy for anyone who is delegating Atom today or staking Atom today to easily access different liquid staking solutions, right? Right now, there's basically one liquid staking solution on the market for Atom, which is P Atom from the Persistence people, who I was just talking to a few minutes ago. And they are, and you can only interact with that product using unstaked Atom, right? And the vast and overwhelming majority of Atoms are staked. They have been roughly since Genesis. And we want to create a world in which, so the purpose of the Occlusion liquid staking module. So we've been building this liquid staking module, which is sort of an add-on. It's an alternative version of the staking module that is in most Cosmos SDK chains. And we've been looking at ways of getting liquid staking out there. And one of the other things that I really want to see is that the dominant liquid staking solutions, not just for Atom, but for other assets, are actually secured by Atom. Atom is the sort of original staking asset. It is the logical place. It is the natural place to be securing the emerging liquid staking economy. Liquid staking of Atom is also the solution to sort of unlocking a massive new possibility space of how Atom tokenomics can work. So it's really important. This is why I work on it. It's really important that liquid staking be adopted. And so we proposed in Prop 69 a way of getting liquid staking out the door and starting to get adopted in the market in a way that didn't depend on interchain queries, interchain accounts, interchain security, all of these like fancy new IBC features, which was the motivation. And we worked very closely with the P2P team about how do we get that into the world, because again, there's every day we wait to adopt liquid staking, there's more Atom inflation than there needs to be. And that's, as an Atom holder, that is the pain I suffer. So to like kind of tie this off, Prop 69 was defeated. And honestly, interchain accounts, interchain queries, interchain security have honestly been moving far faster than I ever anticipated, right? And because of that, we've all collectively pivoted our strategy to supporting all of the different solutions that are coming out of IBC on top of the Occlusion liquid staking module, Quicksilver, the possibility of other liquid staking protocols, not just Veto, coming onto Neutron and Persistence One. We've all been talking to them. I want them to be adopting. And like, honestly, like this is a very important moment. Because while liquid staking exists on other chains, we feel like no one else has done it right. This is the opportunity for Atom to do it right and really open up the possibility space of what Atom tokenomics look like in the future.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack here. And before we dive deeper into Neutron, and I think this is where it gets interesting for you guys for P2P, I want to focus once again on this interchain security aspect because I think Governance Proposal 69, the discussion around it was also heavily impacted by the hub neutrality and interchain security. And now you kind of try to combine this with Neutron. So we see that the hub stays somewhat neutral, but we will basically open up a new hub that leverages interchain security and also somewhat strengthens the tokenomics of Atom. Is this kind of a good overview here, Jelena?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, the credible neutrality of the hub is an extension of what we're seeing develop with Interchain Security. You're going to have, the entire hub validator set, 175 validators that are all obviously incentive aligned with the Atom token, having the ability through governance to make decisions on consumer chains that are secured by the hub itself. And so, there is this on-ramp to, for the validators to be able to make those decisions for themselves. I think maybe a misnomer or maybe a misconception of the credible neutrality argument, historically, has been, well, the hub is credibly neutral, so it shouldn't do anything. I just think that's actually not neutral. I actually think that's taking a position. And so with Interchain Security, you have the ability, again, with different governance proposals in the future once it's live, to say, yep, this is a project we want to support. So obviously Quicksilver has already signaled that they'll be putting up a proposal to be accepted. And now before the feature is even live, we already can have a discussion on Neutron as well. And so I really hope that we can, marry Prop 72 with, with Interchain Security launching itself. And then of course, when the team elects to be accepted to the hub as a consumer chain. So all of these things, I think, are all part of the bigger kind of picture for the hub to be a service provider and to sort of take a role, as the most secure chain in the ecosystem. I'm not counting the exchanges here. When I say the most secure by total market cap, I'm talking about layer ones that exist to provide public goods in the ecosystem. And so from that perspective, the most secure, the most decentralized from a voting power perspective, and also really the project and ecosystem that's been around since the beginning, since it was the first chain to launch in the ecosystem. And so there is a little bit of a paradigm shift with Interchain Security, sort of seeing the hub itself become an application deployment environment, seeing the hub take on more of a leadership role in how the interchain sort of expands. Obviously, there are other amazing things happening in the ecosystem, but I think when it comes to the hub, it's really about providing these valuable services for projects that are looking for a high guarantee of security. They're looking for an active kind of community to be involved in their project and things like this. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's definitely part of a much larger story around this Interchain Security story. And so it's exciting that we're able to actually have these discussions even before the feature is live. And so I think that's very positive.
Yeah, and with that said, I would like to hand over the word to the guys who build on this, who build on Neutron. So maybe Alex, can you give us kind of an overview when you started to think about building Neutron? So when did the discussion around this started? And besides, could you also mention some special features that Neutron could provide for the interchain? Alex?
I can take this one. Yeah, I think Avril might be the best candidate to answer this sort of a broad question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So perhaps it would be useful if I give a quick introduction of myself as well. Can you guys hear me correctly?
No, something is wrong with your sound.
Okay.
Sounds not
Just
good.
How about now? Is it better?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. So yeah, my name is Avril. I'm also known as Spade on Twitter and Web3 environment, I guess.
I work for P2P, but in one of my first assignments as a guy working at P2P was to work on Lido on Terra. And so I've kind of had these two roles, right? And months ago, like a long time ago, we started researching from a research perspective, how liquid staking could be built in the Cosmos ecosystem, right? And basically some technical mysteries, like how to make it work properly, how to adapt it to this specific ecosystem, led us to consider actually how do you design a liquid staking protocol for that specific ecosystem, and where do you implement as well. And so those questions in terms actually matured into their own project, which is Neutron, which took a life on its own after proposals with the repeal of Proposal 69, the development of Interchain Security, and all of these. And this is why we have a whole team that is entirely dedicated to Neutron, actually kind of creating the zone that would allow liquid staking protocols, but also any other type of protocol that seeks to integrate with the interchain economy as a whole to launch with minimal overhead, maximum security, and maximum connectivity, interoperability with the rest of the zones there. So it started from a research question, and it took a life on its own because of the way that the ecosystem itself kind of evolved around it. And I think it's, as Yelena mentioned, it's a very interesting time to be in Cosmos, and it is very much a very interesting time to be building Neutron as well. I think didn't months ago when we started researching the questions from a theoretical point of view, I don't think we had the full picture that it would take such an importance, basically. But we really do think that Neutron is not something that is just here to serve the interest of a protocol, for example. If we were building something for Lido, for example, we would bake the code directly into the binary. We're not doing that at all. We're doing a zone that itself is going to be neutral, and Lido is just going to be one more smart contract within its ecosystem on top. I think these are two things that have been very much embroidered, mingled together in the public discussion, and that I think is useful if we can separate. The guys that we have here with me, I think, need to be introduced as well. Andre is Neutron's tech lead. He's extremely competent, especially when it comes to interchain queries, interchain account, all this IBC tech, and Alex as well. Do you want to maybe add on to this, Alex, or do you think I did a correct introduction job?
I think it's very correct introduction, but I think I can add some important things that liquid staking from Lido, another provider, and Neutron as a zone, two separate products. Of course, Lido can become the first customers, but it is zone for everyone, for some application, wallets, portfolio managers, DEX, aggregators, stablecoins, other. It is zone, not only liquid staking.
Yeah, I think that I would also like to add that like any other liquid staking protocol that would like to launch on Neutron is welcome to do that. That's perfectly fine. That's like the whole idea of a permissionless smart contract platform, and we totally support that. And from a technical point of view, when we started researching the possible ways that we would want to implement a complex protocol that would use various interchain features, IBC features, it became apparent very quickly that being able to build such a protocol using smart contracts without spanning your own zone and integrating your solution directly into the binary of a zone is a really nice option. I personally think, this is my opinion, that smart contracts are easier to audit. They're easier to be used in the various integration test framework and stuff like that. So, and yeah, when we started thinking about that, we realized that it's basically impossible right now to build a protocol using Cosmos that could fully, utilize the power of IBC, of interchain accounts and interchain queries. And that's something that thrilled me personally, that we saw a clear way to enable all that functionality for Cosmos-based smart contracts. And that's basically what we've been working on for a couple of months already. That is providing access to interchain accounts from smart contracts to smart contracts that are based on Cosmos, and implementing a interchain query solution that would be easy to upgrade, easy to implement, and easy to use for a smart contract developer. So yeah, that's my personal perspective on what's going on with Neutron. And Neutron basically enables all of that.
So that we get an overview here. So Neutron also aims to basically takes advantage of all these functionalities that are basically around the corner or already work. So we basically try to put all of this together into one zone, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So you basically have interchain accounts as a module, and you can use that, but there is no bindings for that module, and actually it's kind of hard to implement them without like writing a load of code. So we've been talking to Confio a lot about this, and to IG, and it seems like one of the best ways to give access to interchain accounts from to smart contracts is to basically design and implement a controller module, a specific controller module that will be able to execute transactions on behalf of smart contracts, and then to route IBC packets back to the smart contracts that should receive them. Yeah, and that's what we are working on, and it's already working actually. There are still some improvements, but there is good progress.
Nice. And another thing that you mentioned earlier was also like a question that our community asked us a lot. This aspect that most people didn't realize that they are like separate things between Neutron and Lido. So a question was like, why should we basically pay Lido to launch a Neutron? So Jelena, could you basically dive deeper into the proposal, because you are asking for 150,000 Atom, and many people have some misconceptions here. They think you will use the 150,000 atoms at once, but that's not really the case. And by the way, for the people who are watching this, we also linked the full governance proposal into the chat. So could you dive deeper into how these atoms will be used, and what kinds of projects we can expect launching on Neutron?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, just maybe for like context, and maybe to contextualize this proposal within the larger ecosystem. This is obviously an ask for the community pool for a funding proposal to fund certain projects. And in a lot of other ecosystems, you have similar grant programs. With the Terra collapse, for example, you had Osmosis and Juno and other ecosystems putting together grant programs to support developers coming out of those ecosystems. And those were actually quite open-ended in nature, right? It was like a lump sum for developers, just, overall Cosmos developer, Terra developers, and so on and so forth. And so for us, when we were thinking about how to structure this proposal, we wanted to actually be a lot more deliberate about how we were earmarking those funds. I have a background, like a political background, nonprofit background. I'm the co-founder of an advocacy organization in Canada. And so I do look at this from the perspective of, how like public institutions and public organizations tend to sort of put out these proposals, RFPs or other such documents. And so when we were putting this together, we thought, okay, what would these funds cover? So within the proposal, we specify it would be for headcount for about 2 to 3 months of work for a team to carry out the project. And so really purely headcount. This isn't like, some complicated like investment for equity for, what have you. It's purely for headcount. And so from that perspective, we thought, okay, well, how much does it cost, to hire, a group of people, not just, X amount of developers or engineers, also, community support and like BD support and marketing, like really to have this be more of like a holistic kind of go-to-market sort of plan, that the project that is funded can really, or sorry, that the team that is funded can really like take on and execute like successfully, right? Like we don't want it to be open-ended and say, here is this, lump sum for ever, like, and have fun. It's very much like up to feature launch, 2 to 3 months, covering headcount for a team that will be responsible for launching like this product. And then what happens after is a completely separate discussion. And so from that perspective, we thought, okay, there's obviously limited funds in the community pool. That also needs to be addressed going forward. But for now, like that's just the way things are. On the Cosmos Hub. So we figured, well, we don't want to, fund like a lot of projects, because also just the nature of Interchain Security and the way that the governance gated process will work is that it'll be a slow sort of like onboarding of consumer chains. There is like operational overhead for validators to, run the chain binary, to, get their nodes ready, like all of these things. And so, we don't want to fund like, 50, 20, 10, really a small amount. And so we thought, okay, up to 3. And then we thought, okay, again, what is the cost? At that time, 50,000 atoms made sense, multiplied by the current price. That gets you to like $300,000, $400,000. I mean, depending on the day, 2 to 3 months, really for overhead, that's quite reasonable. I don't know, like how much people have experience, like, hiring, doing payroll, like knowing how much things cost, but that's quite market standard. And so that was kind of like the thinking behind like the structuring of like the funds and how like they would be kind of allocated. And then of course, like when we had the draft proposal up on the forum, there was a lot of kind of questions like, well, what's a type of project? We said Cosmonauts projects. We said, app chains that could be deployed to run as consumer chains. But people said, okay, well, what kind, right? Like we use this language of like blue chip, like, we really wanted like reputability, again, like teams that have a track record of shipping, teams that have a track record of shipping products people love and enjoy. And so that's really how we kind of came to the second version of the proposal, which was, okay, well, we've already indicated there would be, the ask was up to 3 projects funded by with 150,000 atoms. And then we had one project, obviously the P2P team, that had a proposal, and we figured this very much fits like the scope of what we were kind of considering for go-to-market. And so, we earmarked the one portion, the 50,000, as part of that plan. And so, I mean, the second proposal actually gives a lot more details on, obviously, the kinds of projects to be funded, P2P, the applications, liquid staking applications, DeFi applications. And so, it was very deliberate sort of way to kind of get community feedback, get input on all of these outstanding questions. I mean, there's still outstanding questions, which is a really good learning experience, definitely. But I do believe it's in a pretty good spot. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm hoping validators will be in favor of it.
Yes, and as of now, it looks like that the governance proposal will pass. You mentioned a go-to-market plan, and Jack Zampolin said that governance proposal 72 is basically a go-to-market strategy for Interchain Security. So let's talk once again a little bit about Interchain Security. So Zaki, we hear a lots of things about Interchain Security. People are asking when shipping, most likely this year. So, but I think what's very interesting here is, I mean, theoretically, there could launch like like an endless amount of child chains, but what is the reality here? So what can we basically expect from Interchain Security? So how many chains will the hub be able to support, and what role would Neutron play here in order to be like this go-to-market plan for Interchain Security?
Okay, so I think the clearest thing to understand about Interchain Security, right, is that up until now, there's like a standard L1 playbook, right? It's like, I launch a chain, it's got a smart contract, you can build applications, you can like build on top of the network effects of the underlying L1 assets of the chain, Sol, Ava, etc. For these smart contracts, this is how like 99% of the things in the blockchain ecosystem got launched. And with Cosmos, we took a very different strategy. We prioritized IBC. We said, hey, we're going to launch this thing. Atoms there's going to be a network effect around atoms. It's very important that it be that it is there to onboard and offboard people into the IBC ecosystem, but we're not going to follow this L1 strategy. What Interchain Security really does is it kind of brings what is more like the normal L1 world to Atom in a way that's consistent with Atom's values, which is, fault isolation, and sort of like this large scale scalability. So like horizontal scaling, fault isolation, all of these things. So basically it can be demand driven. We can have an EVM chain, smart contract chain. We are looking for a team, who wants to spearhead this. We have Neutron, which is, Cosmonauts. We have application specific chains like Quicksilver. We're going to have more. It's not necessarily clear that and we need to bring, for like larger tokenomic concerns, right? We do need to bring some DeFi activity to the hub, right? It can't just be like all the DeFi activity happens on chains that aren't secure with atoms. Atoms need to result in an entitlement to some amount of valuable block space, right? Otherwise, none of this is going to work. So we do need to solve that problem. So on one hand, it's like, hey, do I want to? And we're figuring this out. We're figuring this out. We're going to thread this needle of what does it mean to not compete with our ecosystem? What does it mean to support all of the sign networks and the osmosis and DYDX and all that stuff in the ecosystem? But we don't want to also completely, step back. And also the DeFi implications of liquid staking are one of the most natural places. So yes, it is going to be demand driven. It is going to, and not everything is going to need, community fund support, but we actually there is this kind of chicken and the egg problem, right? Where there's a couple of things. One is if we don't have liquid staking option, we are going to be consuming very large amount of the inflationary budget of Atom to just maintaining staking rules, to just maintaining people bonding, right? It's going to be hugely expensive. Liquid staking is our only way out of that. So we have to invest in liquid staking success. If we don't invest in liquid staking success, there is I don't see a real path forward for Atom as a store of value, Atom's monetary success. We need this. So that's why we're there. But as we kind of get past this chicken and the egg problem, one is we can have other mechanisms other than community spend proposals by which Atom inflation can be supporting the adoption of Interchain Security. And it can be demand driven. It can be like, hey, I launched on a Cosmonauts or an EVM general chain. Now I want to be able to have more transaction throughput. Hub validators can give you the same security guarantees, many of the same network effects, and you can spin up a new chain.
You stressed the importance of liquid staking. This was actually also a question that appeared very often in the past couple of days. So the question was that, hey, we have Quicksilver. Quicksilver will leverage Interchain Security, will do liquid staking. And now you bring up a new product and people ask if this is necessary. So what you basically say is that we need as many liquid staking products around the hub as much as possible in order to drive more value to the hub, right? Yeah, Zaki.
So why do we need as many liquid staking possibilities as possible? One is there shouldn't I don't want to choose the occlusion. There are many ways to build a liquid staking protocol, and the whole design of the occlusion liquid staking module was to not force any one design on Cosmos. It was to say, hey, we're going to build something that allows any single provider or any provider, Lido, Quicksilver, Persistence, new ones, whatever Pupmos is working on, to get to market faster and scale faster. The problem that Persistence is facing is they have an enormous amount of user friction to scale. 21-day unbonding to scale their user base, right? To go to the existing Atom holders, they have to put them through this 21-day unbonding process to adopt their product. Nobody wants to do this. that's why their TVL is so constrained, right? It's about unlocking growth for all of the solutions, and then let the market decide. Let the DeFi marketplace in Cosmos decide what assets they want to use for collateral, for lending, all of these things. But if we don't have if none of these assets succeed, right, then we're still in the staking versus lending paradox, and we still are having exponential inflation for Atom, and that makes Atom a bad store of value.
Now it's out. Okay. Wow, this was like very clearly speaking. So I think this also is what was like kind of missing in this discussion, I believe, because I think many people didn't think about this aspect. And I think this was actually also part of the governance proposal 69, right? Because it basically started with that in order to add Cosmos to also support liquid staking, right?
Yep, it
Nice.
was like,
Okay.
but I don't think Jay did his airdrop and was like all of his things, right? But like at the end of the day, like my main thing is I do think adoption of liquid staking is really important. I think hub utility is really important. I think making block space valuable so that atoms result in an access to valuable block space is really important for Atom tokenomics. The sooner we get started is the better, but I think we can get started in an acceptably rapid way on top of Interchain Security.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I was actually against Prop 69. At Informal, we have a validator called Cephalopod. We voted no. And so it's just to say that this is not like taking Prop 69 and like replicating it. It's actually a completely different design. It's a completely different sort of like consideration of trade-offs. It's a completely different, I mean, not completely, but it's a reconsideration of how we bring CosmWasm to the hub. But instead of having it like directly on the hub, which I was actually also not in favor of, we have this model, which is Interchain Security, a feature that is being audited, that will bring tremendous value to the hub itself, but also enable other like projects to succeed. And so that's also full disclosure. And I think that's the exciting part of like governance in Cosmos. Even people that have shared interests see different paths of getting there. At the end of the day, we will have to decide on a path. And I really do believe Prop 72 is in service of this path of like empowering like really strong teams, again, to launch these consumer chains with CosmWasm, offering really great products that are valuable for a number of reasons, some of which Zaki just mentioned on the liquid staking front. But there is, it's just interesting is all I wanted to say, that there are some of us that are very pro 72 that were actually not in favor of 69, and I think that's actually positive because it's progress. It's saying we've solved the issues that came up with this new proposal, and now it's time, right? Like timing is also important. So let's make this a reality.
Indeed, it is, and I think now maybe to get like an understanding. So, again, it looks like that governance proposal 72 will pass. So, Andre, could you give us like some updates? What happens after the governance proposal has passed? So, do you have a launch date for Neutron in mind, for example? And when will we see the first steps launching? So, basically, just in short, when Neutron?
There is like one natural blocker for Neutron, that is, of course, Interchain Security. So I think the optimistic estimate for the launch of this technology is late August, maybe September. But well, we'll know how large projects basically launch, maybe even later. So currently, we're booking an audit slot for the beginning of September. I think that we're going to have a public testnet somewhere around those dates. And only after we pass the audit, only after we collect enough feedback from the early testers in the public testnet, then we're going to launch. So I think that this might give you some idea of the possible timeline.
Nice. Yeah, I think this is also like very important to mention here. And now that we have kind of a launch date in mind, and again, it looks like that governance proposal 72 is about to pass. But Zeki, again, you mentioned how important it is to bring this higher utility aspect to the hub. So let's say governance proposal 72 would not pass, which seems very unlikely at this stage. So is there also a plan B? Are there some more developments around the corner? Or yeah, plan B, would there be a plan B?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Is there a plan B? I don't think there's a plan B. There's a plan. We're going to ship Interchain Security.
Yeah, I mean, like Interchain Security will take place but
like
in
if
regard,
this
if proposal 72,
sorry,
yeah, if proposal 72 would not pass, what would happen in this case actually?
well, I don't know where we're going to find a team to build a Cosmonauts chain on the hub. Like, honestly, it's we don't have necessarily a leading next candidate. But you know, Interchain Security has many applications. You know, we have lots of things that aren't announced yet about we have a lot of things that we haven't announced yet that Yellen and I have been working very hard on. So there's lots of use cases for Interchain Security that are unrelated to this particular use case. But like there isn't a better team that we have, like there isn't a better, more Cosmos affiliated team to be building the future of Atom Utility, who believes in the future of Atom Utility, who has been working on the future of Atom Utility for years, more than the P2P validator team. So like really, it'll be crushing to the Interchain Security future if this proposition does not pass. But we do have lots of other things on the pipeline.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. Honestly, like, it's great that we're talking about Neutron, we're talking about the P2P team, how awesome they are, but there are 2 other prospective slots that could be filled with this proposal if it were to pass. And so what would happen if it didn't pass? Well, those teams, prospective teams, and also, of course, the P2P team could not be supported by the community. And I think that would be honestly quite unfortunate for Interchain Security go-to-market. And I think it'd be unfortunate for developers and teams that, have expressed interest in, taking advantage of these funds to really show, one, like the power of like on-chain community spend proposals to accelerate go-to-market, but 2, to really be a part of this Interchain Security like future launch story, right? Of course, this is like this is a feature that will be around for many years. So this isn't like, again, it's not the end of the story, which I think has maybe been a little bit of a misconception. If this, then, everything is over. No, it's just to say that there is a, campaign up to feature launch that we really want to support. The teams that have like committed to leveraging this feature, and that's really like what this is for. And so, yeah, that's really what would happen. And plan B is really those teams having to, rethink their roadmaps, rethink their go-to-market, rethink, the Atom community's support, because I think it's really up to the community to like signal like, this is a future we want. Cosmonauts and permissionless, chain is something that, we want, because I mean, it's really been in the community as a priority for a while. And then lastly, we want to support teams that are incentive aligned, that have been around for a while, that can execute. And so, yeah, that's really what would happen.
I see. Yeah, I think like for me, it gets more and more clear what kind of value governance proposal 72 would bring to the interchain. But still, some people were strongly against it. I'm talking about votes with no with veto. And I think since governance proposal 69, we have a different relationship to these kinds of votes. So maybe like once again, Zeki, do you want to dive deeper into like these kind of votes where people say no with veto? Because it seems to me like that these people disagree so strongly with that if the governance proposal 72 would pass, that they would leave the network, like from a philosophical kind of view. So I don't know if you would agree with this, but for me, it kind of feels like that this no with veto vote is a little bit overused at the moment and became somewhat trendy. So yeah, could you talk a little bit about this kind of voting? Or Jelena, if you want to
let me just jump in. I addressed the no with veto from SG1 as soon as it went live, about 6 hours after the proposal went live on chain. So it was quite amazing to see them react so quickly. I would love to have a discussion with Lobo Juno directly, like on a live stream, because I think on Twitter sometimes these discussions get out of hand. Like, really, what was the rationale? I'm still very open-minded. Like, maybe there are very strong, reasons to say no with veto for something like this, but I really think it's important to have those synchronous discussions. So this is my ask to Lobo Juno to join us for discussion on his vote, or their vote. Sorry, this community's vote.
So can I add some information about it? In my opinion, this cause of a misunderstanding. I think people think it is LIDO proposal. It's not true, but LIDO will receive some tokens or benefits or something else. It's not true. It is only proposal from P2P team, and I think it is big misunderstanding.
Yeah, I think like also I think this is like once again a little bit important. So because the people just connect P2P with Lido. So maybe Avril, can you like basically separate this a little bit more clearly? Because some people hear just P2P and they say, oh, all the money goes to Lido. So in what way are these different are these teams separated?
Yeah, so I understand maybe the roots of the confusion, but I think what's important to understand is that, like, while yes, P2P has contributed to creating Lido, they are very much two separate organizations, and what that means is that they have different staff, they have different people pushing them, developing them, they have different funds, different treasuries. P2P is a registered entity. Lido is a DAO. So they're very much different types of being. And whilst as entities, they're able to cooperate, contract with each other, they're like giving to one is not giving to the other. So in this circumstance, for example, the atom that will be received if proposal 72 passes will go to P2P. It will cover the payrolls of the P2P devs working to make Neutron a reality, to bring interchain like technology to market. And it will, like, not a single atom will go to Lido. The only thing that Lido gets from this proposal is the ability to launch on a permissionless zone. Now, there are other permissionless zones in Cosmos. So if Neutron doesn't exist, then Lido will make its own decisions. But more importantly, if Lido decides not to launch on Neutron, then Neutron will be fine. Like, there are many use cases. Like, the reason we're building Neutron is we really believe that it filled a gap in the market, and it does so at the right moment of the kind of like the time that the story around the Cosmos ecosystem is changing. And we think that there's a window of opportunity here to really bring top-tier teams, top-tier protocols, and the activity users to the ecosystem. And so I think that's why I understand that it's easy to link the two and to pretend that they're the same thing, but they're really not. And what we're trying to build here is a zone, not a protocol. It's a zone that will allow any protocol to deploy on. So, like DEXs, money markets, liquid staking, everything is like, that is literally the reason why we named Neutron. We chose this name because it's first, it sounds cool, arguably. It's very Cosmos spirited, I would say, but also it's like, it has this idea of neutrality, right? That's what we're trying to build. We made it permissionless so that like the builders of the zone or the token holders of the zone could not decide on their own, like what would be allowed on Neutron, what would be allowed to flourish on Neutron. that will be something for the community, for the users to do. Basically, if a protocol is interesting to you, just use it, and that will be your vote of confidence. If it is not interesting, or you think it's harmful to the ecosystem, don't use it. They won't get fees, they won't get money, and they'll wither and die eventually. I think that's basically the way we think about this. Neutron is valuable in its own, basically.
We got a follow-up question on this from the chat. Maybe Andre, you want to answer it. It's what sort of ownership will the P2P team have in the chain? Are P2P validator committing a portion of their own resources / funds to the development of the chain to go alongside the community funds?
Well, yes, of course. P2P validator is committing a portion of our own resources to the development of the chain, because as much of a sum, like 50K atoms is, it's basically just not enough to undertake such a project as Neutron. So yeah, the answer is absolutely yes. P2P is putting our own resources into this development.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say that most of the resources that, at least initially, will be used to make the zone will come from P2P. So the grant is would be an amazing way to bootstrap the zone, because it provides direct runway to have developers working, but it's also, and very importantly so, a way to show that the community itself is actually interested in Neutron as a product, that it realizes that, or believes at least, that there is a way that Neutron can bring activity, sponsor the growth of this ecosystem, make teams that would not have otherwise launched on Cosmos deploy because of the reduced overhead, because of the ease to connect with other zones, other protocols in the ecosystem, because it's secure enough for them to deploy. If you're a big protocol deploying on a chain that has a few $100 million of economic security is something you will think about hard and long, because if your protocol kind of start approaching the economic security of the underlying zone, then it's not really secure anymore, basically, because the bounty to attack the chain becomes very close to the cost of attacking it. So having this higher degree of security, we think, is also something that has value in itself, and we're basically putting it together, and that takes a lot of work, especially making interchain technology, ICAs and ICQ work with Cosmosm. So that's where the funds will be used. We'll be putting our own funds, and then in terms of ownership, because I don't want to skip any parts of this question, the distribution of the token and whether or not there will be a token has not been arrested yet, not been finalized, sorry. We understand that tokens are a very powerful tool in the crypto industry, and we want to design Neutron's token, the distribution, the way we decentralize the zone as much as possible, extremely carefully, because we want to make sure that it is done right, basically, because it could jeopardize the future of Neutron, basically. That being said, when first, I will say two things, basically. We're very interested in detailed and researched input on these questions, because these are obviously very, very complex questions, like tokenomics, distributions, and stuff. This is something you can only do once, and you basically have to do it right. So we're interested in having the community and even working groups form and try to feed us inputs. I think that is definitely something we're interested in learning from, basically, to make it right from the start. And then once decisions start being made and we are closer to a finalized product, to a finalized model for the token and its distribution, then obviously there will be announcements to make sure that everybody knows exactly how it's going to be, basically.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying this. I think this was also like very essential. The panel gets longer, so I want to pick up like one more community question, if you don't mind. So, Yelena, one question from the community was like that you, Zaki, Jack, and I believe David from Galileo are like are in charge of the multisig. Some people kind of see a risk there that just 4 people are in charge of that. Would you agree with that, or can you understand these concerns?
Yeah, I can understand, and you know, like tooling, like for these sorts of initiatives, and like better guidelines, I think is something that we definitely need in the future in Cosmos. I think at the moment it just sort of is like the standard sort of way of operating. You know, you have something similar, for example, you know, with Osmosis Marketing DAO, or really any funding initiative that's technically or that's usually how it's run. We are like not making decisions in isolation. Like we're very much like speaking to teams daily. I mean, like whether it's on a call or on like, you know, like in a chat, you know, we are getting feedback. We want to be like responsible, like stewards of these types of initiatives. I think like one good piece of feedback, you know, is oftentimes it's like the same people like on the multi-sigs. You know, I'm happy to say that this is like the first time I've ever been part of such an initiative, and I think we need more people kind of coming in and like being trained and like, you know, being like kind of responsible stewards of these types of initiatives. So yeah, like I understand the concern, but it's definitely like an industry-wide sort of thing right now, like that we need to address. I mean, not even just in Cosmos, like, you know, like if many other kind of like DAO initiatives, funding initiatives that have, at the end of the day, you know, a multi-sig committee. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to contribute to those efforts, like around like guidelines and like frameworks and again, like tooling and I don't know, other things. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, I think, yeah, we can definitely agree on that. And very last question, Coney Daddy, I think it's not a serious question, but who is doing your interior decorating?
Hey, Coney knows I'm subletting in LA. Coney and I are good friends. So Coney, how about you decorate my apartment?
Yeah, I think that's a clear offer. So, Coney, let us know. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for attending this panel. I think this was very important because we clarified a lot of questions around Proposal 72, also some misunderstandings, and we basically dragged the whole conversation into a new perspective. So thank you so much for joining, guys, and for you guys in the chat. If you want to learn more about the governance proposal is linked in the description below, and we will link more resources that we talked about in this panel shortly after this video live stream is over. With that said, thank you, Yelena, and thank you, P2P team, and I hope I see you soon.
Thank you for the invitation.
So much. Bye-bye.